ultimately that deployment about 42 minutes from now. You're watching live coverage of Sentinel-6B. This is the Mission Director Center at the Vandenberg Space Force Base. We just saw Karen St. Germain, who's in charge of our Science Mission Directorate here at NASA, hand out a few hugs to the team there. And there in the back of the room, coming back from the view outside, Nadia Venegrova Schiffer, our Sentinel-6 program scientist, there in the back of the room. Great anticipation as we now march towards the second burn and separation. This is the Mission Director Center at the Vandenberg Space Force Base. Sentinel-6B will sharpen Earth and ocean forecasts and even improve how NASA plans safe re-entries for astronauts returning from the moon. And as NASA prepares for those future crews, let's get you caught up on Artemis 2, a crewed test flight around the moon, now just months away.
Just last month, crews with NASA's Exploration Ground System program lifted the Orion spacecraft on top of the fully stacked SLS, or Space Launch Systems rocket. You can see it is now a fully integrated moon rocket as it sits inside the vehicle assembly building at NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Teams will perform tests on Orion and SLS with the ground equipment before it is rolled out to Launch Complex 39B for launch. Orion is set to take NASA astronauts Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Cook, and Canadian Space Agency astronaut Jeremy Hansen around the moon and back during the 10-day Artemis 2 test flight. This mission will ensure Orion is ready to fly with astronauts on board and for future Artemis missions to the moon's surface and beyond. That's your Artemis Moon Minute.
With the Artemis 2 mission and its test flight around the moon. But right now we are focused on Sentinel-6B, currently in a coast phase. To recap for you, we launched at 9:21:42 Pacific Standard Time from the Vandenberg Space Force Base here along the central coast of California. We have been flying for 16 minutes. We had a good first burn of the first booster, and then the second stage had a good first burn and good orbital insertion. And so now there'll be some modification of how Sentinel-6B is oriented with regards to flying through space. And Nikki Russell, our vehicle systems engineer with Launch Services Program and our co-commentator for this evening. It's interesting, there's an instrument on board Sentinel-6B, the Advanced Microwave Radiometer, that has to have special care taken with regards to how much sun exposure it can have. Explain that.
So, part of flight design and trajectory is spacecraft requirements. That's an input into those analyses. So, as you just mentioned, this AMR, Advanced Microwave Radiometer, which is a NASA-provided microwave radiometer that measures path delay due to atmospheric water vapor along the altimeter path. It has some sensitivities. It's sensitive to solar exposure through its aperture, so as a result, Sentinel-6B must separate in an orientation which protects it from the sun's view. SpaceX's Falcon 9 rocket is able to do this by taking advantage of its internal flight software, which tracks the sun's location relative to the spacecraft in each position.
So eventually we will get illumination and pick up the signal of the second stage, which has a camera on it, and the cameras we've been seeing, both of the engine and of the Sentinel-6B. And we'll note that it is turned at that angle, that special angle, to keep that special equipment away from the sun. Don't want to burn its eyes.
Exactly.
Me and you, we use sunglasses.
Yes.
But Sentinel-6, we just turn it away.
Perfect.
Don't look. Don't look at the sun. Or T plus 18 minutes and counting. This is launch coverage of Sentinel-6B, live from Vandenberg, California, at NASA's Mission Director Center. We are T plus 24 minutes and counting here at the Mission Director Center at the Vandenberg Space Force Base, tracking the progress of second stage of the Falcon 9 rocket, coasting with the Sentinel-6B satellite. You're looking at a ground track as we approach the coast of Chile along the South American continent. Sentinel-6B is giving NASA the most precise sea level data yet once it goes into orbit and gets operational. And this will be critical for communities living on the coast, just like right there in Chile. Here's more on why that matters.
It doesn't even take a big storm to get into flooding conditions. We call that nuisance flooding or sunny day flooding because there could be no cloud in the sky, the sun is out, and you still have flooding in your streets. So in coastal communities across the globe, we're living with water. And depending on where that water is, it could be safe for us or it can start to push us into flooding conditions. Sentinel-6B provides us with the data that we really need to prepare for the changes that are underway and that might occur in the future. So the way that Sentinel-6B measures is it sends a radar signal down to the surface of the ocean and measures how long it takes that signal to get back to the satellite. And from that, we can really get a very accurate measurement of how sea levels are changing locally and on a global scale, down to about a 1-inch accuracy. Sentinel-6B provides us really critical information we need for planning and preparing for the changes that we see from day to day, from decade to decade. Communities that were built over a century ago were built in such a way they knew where the average high tide was and were built with kind of a safety factor. They knew it wouldn't flood all the time. As sea levels change, however, we start to push into flooding conditions. So your high tide that maybe wasn't a problem in the past now becomes a problem and leads to flooding, to impact to businesses. So it's really important that we're able to track those changes over time.